Well, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, Frankie's got the weather we got. Wait a minute. Well, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, Frankie's got the weather or not.
Everyone loves Frankie. Frankie, meet Mike McCabe, TV weatherman from Pasco, Washington.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Frankie.
I'm doing
It's an
great so
honor.
far.
Frankie's a YouTuber from Sydney, Nova Scotia, eh, Frankie?
Yes, I'm a YouTuber from Sydney, Nova Scotia.
That's right.
I'm going to follow you and subscribe from here on out. I'm excited.
So we're going to be
On
talking
my
to
YouTube
Mike.
channel, Dogs and Wolves. That's my YouTube channel.
Okay. I'm writing it down. Actually, I already found you.
There you go. So we're going to talk to you, Mike, tonight as a special guest.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll have the panel with Mike McGregor's here, and we got Karen Richards as well. And anybody who on the panel will want to ask a question, we'll check the comments on the live stream there for anybody who's watching on Caribbean Weather Dude YouTube channel for questions for Mike. But we'll just start with Mike. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to being a TV weatherman.
Absolutely. I started, oh my goodness, getting into the business probably over 30 years ago, right out of high school, working at a television station in Yakima, Washington, running the teleprompter for a newscast. And from there, I jumped into running audio. And then I actually worked in a area called Master Control, where I ran commercials for 3 stations, KMA TV, Keeper Television in Pasco, and KLEW Television in Lewiston, Idaho. And so I got to work behind the scenes, and when the lights shut off, I'd stand in front of the green screen and imitate our weather guy. But it was something that I knew I wanted to do from an early age, and I had an appreciation for weather. I loved weather. I got super excited about weather, but I knew that in order to get in front of the screen, I would have to go to school. So I moved to Lewiston, Idaho, and I went to a community college there, and I took some classes up at WSU, lived with my sister, and I got a job in radio, working midnight to 6, spinning tunes, and then I got a job doing news for the radio station KTW FM in Lewiston, Idaho. So I did a lot of news, and there was an opening for a weather position at KLEW Television in Lewiston, Idaho. This was back in 1996. And so I knew I had to make a tape, but I didn't have one. So I drove to Yakima, where I got my first TV job. And the director there, after the newscast, allowed me to get in front of the green screen and make a very terrible, terrible tape. I was awful. But I was in a small town, a very small town, with only one television station at KLEW. And I didn't get past it. The first crack around, I actually had to apply for it 3 times before they finally gave me a shot at doing weather on television. And I promised them if they just would have given me this one chance, they wouldn't be disappointed. And coincidentally, I've been working for the same company for over 28 years. I went from KLAW to Yakima, and now I'm in the Tri-Cities. I still do weather for Yakima. They don't have their own weather meteorologist down there, so I provide it for them. I record a weather report a half hour before the show starts, which has its own challenges, especially in the wintertime, where the forecast may be calling for mostly cloudy conditions, and then right at 5:01 it starts to snow, but I've already recorded my weather segment. That's another story for another day.
I know that.
But but I'm live here in the Tri-Cities at 5, 6, and 11, Monday through Friday. That's kind of the short of it right there. And I actually just recently was nominated for the Silver Circle nomination for the National Academy of Television Arts and Scientists, the Northwest chapter. And I guess it's the Silver Circle Award, so it's just basically the old man award. But I got word actually of all, since we're speaking weather stuff on Monday. And so I'm honored to be able to be a recipient of that award. And it's going to be held in Seattle, June 6th. And so I'm going to accept that award for my years of service in TV, weather, and all that fun stuff. So anyway, it's been a fun journey. It's been a great ride. I've loved every bit of it. I like to hike, and I love my family, and I love my job. So that's kind of the synopsis of kind of how I got started in all this.
Meteorologist Mark Ingalls I think we also had Hilding just show up in the panel. So we got a lot of people who are going to be coming at you with questions once meteorologist Mark Ingalls gets on the go with you here. So prepare yourself for what's coming next, everybody. Mike McCabe. And
Just got the fat check for pushing that.
My name Mark Ingalls.
Pushing that agenda. It says here, HARP, climate change, whatever, in my bank account.
okay, Mark. So we're going to get you to do this interview right now because I have really important things to take care of.
I will, real quickly though, I do want to talk about, we've had very stormy weather today in White Rock, and I'm going to step outside. I've got my Kestrel here, my handheld anemometer. My AirPods should reach, so we're going to step outside and see what we got going on. It's very windy here on my balcony. And so we've got, I think you can probably hear the wind, 20 kilometers an hour. Oh, here's 30. Yeah, we're gusting about 30, 35 kilometers an hour. It's not real that big, but it is chilly. So I'm going to come back inside now that I'm done with that. And but my daughter's having a ton of fun standing outside in the wind and cold because she knows that she could come inside and stand by our fireplace. So tonight we have Mike McCabe joining us from Pasco, Washington. Pasco is one of the 3 Tri-Cities there in Eastern Washington, Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland. I grew up in Kennewick, and Mike is on the CBS station there in the Tri-Cities in Yakima. When I was in high school, I reached out to Mike asking if I could come invade the station a couple of times to kind of see how the weather works in his part of the world. And it was really insightful for me. And Mike was very supportive of me in high school and when I came back from my mission in college too. So I'm really excited to have Mike on the show with us. He's been very influential in my career, especially early on. And now here I am living my dream. So, and Mike played a role in that. So Mike, welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you, Mark. It is a pleasure to be on the program. And likewise, it has been an honor knowing you and watching you grow from, just this eager high school student to go on and get your education and move on. And I've watched you when you were in Prosser, and then you moved to Portland, and now you're up north and doing great things and great, wonderful things. And it's so good to see that movement that you've made over the years. It's hard to believe that it's been, I don't know how long it's been, over 10 years since
Wow. Well, this was in
met.
high school, and I'm 30 now, so
yeah,
it's been a while.
It has been a long while. Mark would come and he would just hang out the whole time, and he would hang out and talk with the anchors, and you were always right there. And then I realized, man, this guy not only loves weather, but he's really smart. So much so that our local radio personalities here in the Tri-Cities will often call Mark when we have big weather stories and get his opinion on or his take on, more importantly, the weather moving forward, like what's our spring going to look like, or what's the winter going to look like? Are we going to get a lot of snow? So he's kind of made his name for himself. And what I appreciate, Mark, and then I'll talk a little more about what I do. And I'm not trying to, you do great. Mark's awesome. So
Yeah, you're already on the show, Mike.
I know I am on the show, so I guess I don't need to convince anybody else. But yeah, you were, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, a lot of people. And oh no, what I love is that Mark still contributes to weather here in the Tri-Cities. So he's got his Facebook page and other social outlets. Well, he will continue to provide his insight on the weather here in the Tri-Cities, in the Basin, and into Eastern Oregon. There's a lot of people that follow it, including me. I mean, like, I'll see something that Mark writes up, and I'm going, okay, yeah, that's important. That's something I can include in my weather story for tonight. And so you've done great, and it's been a pleasure. And now look at this, I get to meet all these wonderful other really smart people on this podcast tonight.
Yeah. So Mike, you've been doing television weather for over 25 years, but you are not a meteorologist. And I want to point that out because I know that there's some people on the panel, and I know that there's a lot of people probably watching this that have a strong interest in weather, but don't really see a career path for them in that they might want to go to. So I know you talked about it in the pre-show, but I'd like to hear you talk about how you got into weather in kind of a more unconventional way, and how that's led to a successful career for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I really got into this business through the back door. It is not a way that I recommend people to go about it, particularly if you are interested in weather on television. For a lot of people, that would require a meteorology degree. Although, if you have a good sense of telling a story and some personality, television is a good route to go. If you can convince people to watch your channel based on your communication skills. That's been my best skill that I think that I have been able to bring to the table. I went in and I did it unconventionally. I worked behind the scenes and I've worked every aspect of television that you can probably think of, from production to news to everything. And eventually I got in front of the camera, and that was really hard to do. It took me probably 10 years before I could even get in front of the camera. I got through the back door. And from there, I've been, as I said, I started in Lewis, Idaho, then Yakima, and now here in the Tri Cities. And I met my wife way back when I was in Lewiston, and we're very family oriented. And she told me the very first time that when I started this business is that she didn't want to move anywhere more than 100 miles from her family. And I kind of told her, I said, well, people in this business generally typically start in these markets and move to bigger markets or go into something a little bit different, which means involve, moving to a bigger city. And she wasn't having it. And so I thought right there, I had a decision to make. Do I work on my career or family first? And so for me, family was first. And in hindsight, looking back at everything, I'm glad that I stayed where I have been, just simply because I've gotten to meet a lot of young people as they've started out, and I've seen them move all over the country. I have friends in major markets, small markets, some of the people that started doing weather that aren't even in the business at all. So it's fun to watch these people move on and grow, including Mark. And fortunately, with each contract renewal, they've been fortunate to keep me on and allowed me to pay me a living wage. I do appreciate getting anywhere I want in the Tri-Cities within 15 to 20 minutes. I love the big cities. I love Vancouver, British Columbia. I love Seattle. I love to visit those places. My younger self always had a dream of living in downtown Seattle in a penthouse working for King Television. That didn't come to pass for me. But as the older I get, the more I'm appreciative of exactly where I'm at. And if I ever get an itch for the big city, I can get in my car in about 3 hours and get there. We're pretty centrally located. So yes, so for me, it's been a wonderful ride. And I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do what I'm able to do on TV every night. And again, a lot of that is being a personality and communicating a weather story to our television audience. And I use a lot of really smart people. I've said this over and over again to help me tell that weather story. And so I'm very grateful for all the people around me that help me be better. And I'm still learning. Let me tell you what, I love weather and I learn all the time. Mark has taught me a lot of things, and so have a lot of others in the weather community. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mike. Before I open it up to the panel, I do want to ask you, how do you handle forecast bust? Because I had one of those today.
Yes.
So it's fresh on my mind. How do you handle a forecast bust and the messaging that you get from your viewers related to that?
I roll with it. And oftentimes I'll even make light of it, or I'll just simply mention it. Hey, we missed this. The forecast models didn't come together like we thought that they would, and it was a complete bust. And here we are. We're going to move forward, and this is what we learned from it. And as we move forward, the technology has gotten a lot better. So, especially where we are in Eastern Washington in the desert, our weather is fairly predictable. But oftentimes our biggest challenge comes in snowfall amounts during winter storms, as far as how much snow we're going to get, because that's the question that everybody wants to know. And that can be a challenge for us, is determining the snowfall amounts. But yeah, when it's completely off, if it's a real bad blunder, I'll just own it and then move on. But I don't stick around on it for very long. I get 3 minutes to tell a weather story. So
I've kind of found that's what works best for me too. Today it was all about low clouds in Washington D.C. and Baltimore and Richmond, Virginia, and it was just like, well, I didn't know they were there until the sun rose. And
Yeah,
I didn't know
absolutely.
how long they were going to last. That's just how it was. Tell
Yeah,
us.
and it's not an exact science, as you know. Weather is not an exact science. So of course, uh, there's going to be some bust in the forecast, and that's what makes it interesting and fun to track and continue to learn about, because we get better as we move on, and the technology is getting better. So yeah, it's I just kind of own it and then move on.
So the Eastern Washington is not commonly thought of for severe weather chasing. Um,
No,
though severe weather does happen in Eastern Washington, but um, more often it's kind of weirder stuff like perhaps tumbleweeds and stuff like that. Can you talk about the tumbleweed drifts that have been problematic in the Tri-Cities recently?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we live in a desert here in the Columbia Basin, and it's very arid, dry climate. So wind is very much a part of our climate here. And we live in an area with a lot of tumbleweeds. So the wind blows often, and these tumbleweeds we often dodge, as Mark knows, tumbleweeds in the springtime, really any time of the year. There's even these memes where they're during the winter time where there's this or this picture of the tumbleweed snowman, and Christmas in the Tri-Cities. Yeah, I mean, we've had tumbleweeds close highways before. I live in a neighborhood where if you're in a certain part of the area of the neighborhood, you end up with tumbleweeds every time the wind blows, and they actually have a real problem with it. And yeah, it's people. We had someone, it was a viral video that someone video was able to videotape out on Highway 240 of a bunch of tumbleweeds that actually blocked the roadway. Yeah, we get a lot of tumbleweeds. I don't know what else to say about that.
Now, a little known
So,
fact: people think
Yeah,
tumbleweeds. They think of this the Wild West, the Old West.
yeah,
So you always see the tumbleweeds going by in the Old West. It's the 1850s, 1860s. But truthfully, they're an invasive species and weren't around back then. So anytime you see that in a movie, go
yeah. I've heard that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, those and in Eastern Washington, Russian olive trees are all over the place, and those were also an invasive species. They were brought for ornamental gardens, and they're just all over the place. And those things are the
yeah.
worst.
Mm.
So I'm gonna open up to Justin. Justin is in Brandon, Manitoba. He chases storms there, and so I wanted to see what question Justin has over there in Manitoba.
Yes, nice to meet you, Mike. Very nice
Thank
to meet you.
you.
Yes. Just want to touch on the tumbleweeds for a moment. I think Oklahoma and Texas are going to have quite a bit this weekend with all the strong winds happening down there.
Yeah.
But my question for you is usually a TV weather segment is like 3, 4, 5 minutes long. How long does it take you to formulate your forecast? Like, I'm guessing it probably takes hours, maybe, going through the different TV graphics and stuff. Like, what's that ratio between actual airtime versus time it takes to formulate your forecast?
It's a great question. Yeah, I can do it pretty quickly if I have to, but normally I like to commit at least a couple of hours. I'm kind of a weather nerd anyway, so in the mornings I'll often have the Weather Channel on at home, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on across the country. Even though I don't do any national weather, all of mine is just Northwest focused. When I'm on the air, I get to work and I can get it done pretty quickly. Our weather computer is from the weather company. A lot of my maps are automated, but I'll go in there and I'll tweak the temperatures based on other forecasts to make it reflect more of what we typically get. But it's pretty slick. Our computer system is really reliable. And it's pretty good. So, if I have to, I can whip together a forecast pretty quickly. I rely on the weather community off of Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And I follow a lot of the weather people there. And of course, the National Weather Service with their forecast discussion, I read that like it's my Bible, because, they're staffed with meteorologists that sit down and write these every day. And so, I'll use that as a resource. Another resource that I use oftentimes is like, for example, Michael Snyder, who's in the Seattle area that does YouTube videos every day that talks about weather in the Northwest as well as California. And he always touches on Eastern Washington and the weather that we have here in the Tri-Cities. Not always, but a lot of the times. So I'll just watch his podcasts. Sometimes they're about 15 to 20 minutes long. I'll read. Sometimes Mark Ingalls will give his take on the weather here in the basin, and so I'll always read up on that. Any resources that I can get. But believe it or not, preparation time for me to get ready to go on air for a 3-minute weather presentation, I can do pretty quickly. I can get all the information I need probably in about a half hour, 45 minutes. But in between all of that, I have radio that I have to send to for some local radio stations. So I send those out. And then we have cut-ins and teases. And then, of course, I have to contribute on social media, Facebook, Twitter. I do some Instagram. And I do have a TikTok, but I don't hardly ever use that. And so as time goes on, a lot of my time and resources are kind of spread out now, and we are being more focused on social media because that's where everybody is. Everybody's on their phone. And so we have to be hyper local. We have to have that presence, and we are definitely getting directed to do that because, again, that's where people are. And so the television audience has shrunk. Back in our day, you had to watch the news to get your weather or even get your news. Now you can get it anytime, all you want. So we have to be hyper local to be to make money and to have a job. Our salespeople work hard to make sure that they get that revenue in here so that we can operate as a television station, a small television station, no less, when the audience just is shrinking. So anyway, that was more than what you'd ask, I know. So I can do it in about a half hour, 45 minutes to get everything ready for my newscast.
I think it's a
Awesome.
good question too, though, because I think putting it into a 3-minute segment itself is a challenge. Whereas myself as a YouTuber, I make a forecast. It's like I hit record. It might take me 45 minutes or whatever, but I'm like, I can take time to talk about things. So I can kind of do my learning as I'm looking at maps and things. Like, oh, this is what stands out right now, blah, blah, blah. I don't have any pressure to be succticed.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that itself is a challenge that takes time out of your day to narrow it down into what's the meat.
Yeah. And that's the challenge, and that's the art of television, anchoring a weather report on TV when you have 3 minutes, or sometimes I might get 3:30 if it's a big weather day. Sometimes I get less, depending upon what the producer tells us, based on what news is happening that day. And so I've been doing it so long, I kind of do it on autopilot, so to speak. But the challenge or the art of television broadcasting on TV is that you do have that 3 minutes to tell a weather story, and you have to make sure you tell it in a way that people at home can understand. So it has to be at a 5th or 6th grade level. The real art is if you can explain a complex weather pattern in a way that anybody can understand. That's not easy to do. But if you can do that, and you can get people to tune in to watch you on television, which a lot of people aren't watching television nowadays anyways, that's a good start. Getting better on social media is a great start. A lot of us old TV people aren't used to these social media channels that we're kind of not necessarily being forced to utilize, but we have to. We have to jump on the bus or get left behind. And so I learn a lot from young people that just fire up these YouTube channels and these weather chats, and guys like you that have a real passion for it. And I sit back and go, wow, this is a real skill here that these people are doing, and they're not having, and they're real, they're authentic. Television people, weather personalities, I mean, I try to be as authentic as I can, but there's a little showmanship involved. I wear the fun suits and I talk like this sometimes, but the older I get, the more I realize the more authentic I am and the real person I am on the green screen, the better I can communicate the weather story, and the more people can engage with me and feel like they can talk to me. Early on when I first did my weather report, I'd go, all right, folks, it's going to be a sunny day out there today. Daytime highs, I'd kind of put my radio voice on. And I realized that wasn't really who I was. It sounded good and it worked good in radio. But when I just was able to relax a little bit and just kind of be myself, that's where it sort of clicked for me, and it's worked for me pretty well so far. And no, I'm not a big weather anchor at a big major market. I'm right here serving my community where I truly believe I belong, and I'm just so honored to be able to get to do that. But yeah, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, and I apologize. But thank you for giving me that platform. So yeah,
Well, that's
that's
okay, Mike.
yeah.
I'm gonna move us along to Michael McGregor in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Michael does social media with Justin there in Manitoba, and I know he's got a question for you.
Yeah, so a question about education. If you're to be a meteorologist or pursue something down the lines of TV meteorology, I'm really bad with math. Honestly, I didn't really do well with pre-calculus in high school, and I, struggle at the time every time I have to think about taking math for university. Are there ways that you can get into broadcast meteorology or broadcast weather without having to go through all those avenues, like basic weather science education or something like that? Is there courses in Winnipeg that offer that where I live?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, you can. You absolutely can. I was terrible at math. I still am. Love science and did pretty good there, but math, yeah, don't ask me to do a lot of math because I'm terrible at it. Um, if you are planning to work for a government agency or the National Weather Service, that 4-year degree and that meteorology degree is almost you're going to need that. If you are looking to go the radio or TV route, um, you're going to need the 4-year degree most likely. You don't necessarily need the meteorology degree, but you will need personality and a reason for people to tune in and watch you, because that's just TV. It's a visual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a good communicator, you can definitely do it without the meteorology degree. Many people have. I mean, some of the great, more well-known weather personalities are not meteorologists. So yes, it's possible.
Mike, I just want to jump in here, Mike. I failed synoptic meteorology, which was math heavy, and I had to retake it, and I almost failed it a second time. Like it was
Wow.
brutal, and the only
Yeah.
reason I didn't fail it that second time, I was failing at the midterm,
Yeah.
and I reached out to the
Okay.
TA, and I was like, "Look, I got here with the math, and I feel like I'll end up here, but I don't really know what to do in the middle." And this TA was so helpful for me.
Mm.
They're like, "I understand. Um, here's a push in the right direction." I was really good with math in like elementary school, but then I kind of peaked with math in elementary school. Um,
Yeah.
but you can definitely do it without the math background. We're running low on time, so I'm gonna run us over to Radio Weatherman Brandon Hauk.
Yes, I do have a quick question, fairly quick, easy one, fairly easy. What was the greatest weather event that you've ever covered on TV?
Oh boy, that is an excellent question. I would have to say back in 1995, 96, the winter of 95, 96, where we had, and I was in Lewiston, Idaho, and Lewiston got over a foot of snow. Yakima, Tri-Cities got over a foot of snow that winter. Roofs collapsed, and then it was boom, boom, boom. And then we got warming in March and April. We had major flooding here in Eastern Washington. And that was a very active period. So that probably was one of the bigger weather events that I covered and remember. Also, 2019, February, was it 2019 or 18, Mark, where we got all the snow? I'm trying to think
I
here.
think it was 19.
2019, where we thought we were getting through the winter, just saying, oh, we made it. And then February hit and we had record snowfall. That was another big one. We didn't get quite the flooding that I thought we might with that, but probably that. The biggest weather phenomenon that I can remember, I'm old, folks, you got to remember, was the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. But I was only 10 years old at that time. So that was something. I
Where
got
were you
pictures.
at for Mount St. Helens? Were you in
I was in
Yakima?
I was in Yakima. I was at church. It was a Sunday morning. It was a beautiful sunny day, sunny morning. Got in, and then all of a sudden the windows started to rattle because there was a little rumble of thunder, and it just got dark, and these clouds came through. We didn't know what was going on. I was scared to death. I thought the world was ending. We tried to drive home in it. We couldn't because the ash was so thick in the radiator in the vehicle. We had to turn around and drive back to the church. We had to wait it out till that evening until just as the sun was beginning to set, you could see a break in the clouds, and we drove home. And then I didn't have school for the rest of May, and actually that rest of the year we were done.
How much ash did you guys get? Do you remember?
We got up, yeah, it was about 2 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good amount. We were shoveling it for days and days.
In many people, especially in Canada, won't know this. In Yakima, they took all of the ash from the road and like dumped it in this park downtown, and it's like it was a 6 foot high mound of ash that they took the snow plows out and then put it in the park and I think in downtown Yakima. That was a
Yeah.
really incredible event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll never ever forget it.
I'm glad you brought that up because I love Mount St. Helens.